Hi guys, welcome to our channel. Uh, Happy to see you all back here. Alright, let's continue. The beginning and the foundation of the church at Jerusalem. So we'll just see how it was all formed. The council of Peter and the selection of Matthias. So however we know this how Matthias was chosen. I'll just read it over again. Peter was older than the other apostles, so he stood up and addressed them to choose a replacement for Judas. They nominated two men, Joseph called Barsabbas and Matthias. They cast lots, and it fell upon Matthias, and he was numbered with the 11 apostles. We can read that in Acts 1:15-26. Therefore, even though they prayed and chose Matthias, he was not God's choice. The works done by Matthias are not recorded in the Bible. God chose Paul and slowly brought him into the scene in chapter 9 onwards. This is the like all the disciples where they went and how they were crucified or how they died. That's just a record of where each one did their ministry. Okay, just a note I will give. Jesus started his earthly ministry at the age of 30, and he chose disciples of his age. No one had attained the marriageable age, that is 40, except for Peter. In Jewish culture, men get married at the age of 40. Since Peter was married before coming to ministry, we know that Peter was above 40. Moreover, Peter was the one who always speaks first, and they considered him as their elder brother. Therefore, Peter addressed the gathering. Okay. The baptism of the Holy Spirit on the day of Pentecost. Acts 2, you all can read it, okay? Acts 2, 1-4. It's the scene, what's happening there. Around 500 people witnessed Jesus' ascension. So we know that when Jesus was ascending to heaven, there were around 500 people who witnessed it. However, only 120 people waited to receive the Father's promise at the upper room. When the day of Pentecost had, because Jesus has told them to wait till the day of Pentecost. So on the upper room, so there were only 120 who waited. When the day of Pentecost had fully come, they were all with one accord in the upper room. Suddenly there came from heaven a sound like a mighty rushing wind, and it filled the whole house where they were sitting. Then what looked like tongues on fire spreading out appeared to them and settled on or upon each of them. Verse 3 talks about the baptism of the Holy Spirit. All of them were filled with the Holy Spirit and began to speak in other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. Verse 4 we can talk about how it's been filled like. Okay. The baptism of the Holy Spirit together with the filling of the Holy Spirit enabled them to speak in other languages or tongues. Thus, the Holy Spirit enables an individual to speak in any tongues of men without learning them. The hearer understands the language but not by the speaker. Like suddenly imagine I'm talking in Spanish where I have no clue about it. Something like that. The Holy Spirit also enables an individual to speak in heavenly language. It is not for the benefit of others but to speak to God. These are the feast of Israel. You all can have a look at it. The 7 feast of Israel. The Jews living in other nations come to Jerusalem 1 week before the festival, do cleansing and perform other religious rituals required to worship God. So Jerusalem would be crowded. The same day Jesus entered Jerusalem on a donkey after celebrating the Feast of Unleavened Bread. For 7 days, they would stay back to celebrate the Feast of Harvest, which would happen within 2 months. Therefore, almost 2 months they stay in Jerusalem and the surrounding areas. However, before leaving, they visit the King David's tomb. So when people come and stay in Jerusalem, they never forget to visit the David's tomb, located in Mount Zion, southwest of the Zion Gate and outside Jerusalem's old city wall, to bid farewell and pray to God to give them a king like David. Jews did not know that Jesus is the son of David, and he came to this world and fulfilled all the prophecies spoken about him. Even today, few Jews are anticipating the coming of the Messiah. The visitors maintained silence in David's tomb to show their honor to the King David. Even today, we can see some Jews sitting next to the tomb, read Torah, and rock their upper bodies forward and back in a rhythmic way as a mark of whole body involvement, while others touch the tomb and pray and pay homage. I know this scene, this usually happens when the Jews and the devoted men from every nation under heaven visited King David's tomb to bid farewell. Those 120 disciples waiting for the promise of the Father received the baptism of the Holy Spirit. In response to the baptism of the Holy Spirit and the filling of the Holy Spirit, those 120 disciples began to speak in different languages of the world unknown to them. So you all can understand how it is. There are already people visiting the David's tomb, which is down their house. These people are staying in the upper room, where waiting for the Holy Spirit to come upon. So that's the scene, and you know how much of people are below. So when they heard the sound or the loud noise, the crowds were confused because each one of them was hearing them speak in their language. They knew that these people were all from Galilee, yet they were speaking in their native language. Therefore they stood there amazed and perplexed. However, some others in the crowd ridiculed them, saying, "These men are full of new wine." So we can see, how well God has planned everything, where the people will be there down, and already they are going to speak about Jesus, testify about Jesus, waiting for the promise Jesus has said. That's amazing. When the onlookers mocked the 120 believers, they were not happy. Then Peter stepped forward with the 11, raised his voice, and said that they were not drunk as they thought, for it was only 9 o'clock in the morning. So you all can go through. That's the Bible, the clock, biblical art, we should say, how it has been divided, the 6th hour, 7th hour, we go on saying. So you all can look into it. Okay, so we'll see you all next week, and until then, take care. Bye bye.